Hello, my name is Eric and I'm doing another one of my photography vlogs called One Body, One Lens, One Roll, One Day. I'm here at Birchwood Park in the heart of Fremont, Ohio, Sandusky County area, northwest Ohio. So I kind of got out of my northeast Ohio, Medina County area, came over here. Very nice May morning. It's a nice Friday morning. Sun's out, you can see nice shadows and stuff like that. The park I'm at has nice picnic areas, has tennis courts, has basketball courts, swings, jungle gyms. It's a nice, big city park. Today's camera, my Canon EOS RT. This is a 1980s Canon autofocus film camera. Today's lens is the Canon 50mm 1.4 ultrasonic. So there's a ultrasonic right there. It's a 1.4, so it's one of their faster ones. It's kind of one of those where if you had the 51.8, I would pay the money to go to the 51.4, but I'm not sure I would pay the money to go to the 1.2. So, the 1.4 is really nice for its price point. All right, today's film, supposedly some frozen Kodak Ektar 25, one of my most favorite films. So I'm going to put this in here. I'm going to let the DX code read it at and rated at 25 because the gentleman I got it from says it was in his freezer along with a couple other rolls of film that he gave me for my project. So I'm going to trust him and we will see what happens. Okay, this is a roll of 24. I am in aperture priority at 1.4. Let me see what kind of shutter speeds I'm getting. Well, at 3.5, I'm about 125th of a second, so that's good. All right. Let me get some shots. Be right back. Okay, so the Canon RT has a couple of cool things about it. One, it's part of the 600 series Canon film family, which is the 600, the 630, the 650, and the RT. One of Canon's kind of more first generation autofocus systems. Nice thing is nice metal chassis, lots of nice metal rollers inside. Very well built camera. Now the RT is a little different than any of the other, or most of the other Canon autofocus film bodies, is the fact that it's got a pellicle mirror. And what a pellicle mirror is as you take a photo with a traditional camera, the mirror is going to go up and down. You're going to get that temporary blackout, and the camera opens up the shutter curtain and exposes your film. The RT, and there's an EOS RS, I think also was the other one, had the pellicle mirror, and the mirror physically does not move. It is a semi-transparent mirror with the shutter curtain behind it. So as you take the photo, it's just the curtain moves up and down, the mirror stays put. Does a cool thing, at least back in the day, you did not get that temporary blackout. So if you were shooting sports, you could stay tracking, or if you're shooting a bird, you could stay tracking on that moving subject without having to worry about temporary blackout and did something happen in between. And at that point in time, this was, I think, close to 5 frames per second, which was pretty fast, a lot faster than manually cranking it. Fastest I've ever done manual crank is about 1 frame a second. All right, I'm gonna take a close-up photo of this tree here, right here. Be right back. Now, Kodak Ektar films is a slightly higher contrast film, more contrasty than, let's say, the gold or even the portrait films. The Ektar back in the 90s had 4 different film speeds: the 25, the 100, the 400, and the 1000. I've shot some of the 100 before, shot a couple rolls of 25 that's been frozen. Negatives come out beautiful. Very, very fine-grained film. Supposedly the current Ektar 100 has the same. I'm not 100% sure, but I still like the Ektar 25. All right, let's go that way. Be right back. All right, Ektar 25 also had one more thing that no other film has, and someone might want to look that up and correct me, but at least back in the 90s to early 2000s, it was the only color 35mm or medium format film that had no reciprocity failure. And what reciprocity is when you do the long exposures for like astrophotography or for nighttime street photography to get the car lines, the off the tail lights and stuff like that. A lot of the normal speed films, the 100s or 400s and stuff like that, would say for your longer exposures, this film becomes less reactive the longer the exposure, so you've got to add some extra time. So if your math says, I need to shoot this shot at, you know, f/16 because I want the depth, but I'm going to be shooting for like 2 minutes long, again, probably you want to see trails, emotions, and stuff like that, you would actually need to add a little extra time, because the longer that film would be under exposure, the less reactive it became. Most cases, it was nothing more than, hey, at 10 seconds, add a half a stop, and at 100 seconds, you would add, you know, a full stop, and at maybe 10 minutes, you'd be adding 2 stops. So it was, you know, something like that. Have to be some pretty decent long exposures. But astrophotographies and really long nighttime exposure people would have to make some mental adjustments to their exposures, as opposed to trusting the camera to do it. This film had no reciprocity failure, so you could shoot it 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour long, and not have to worry about making any added adjustments because of that, which was cool. I have seen some blow-ups from this film from back in the late 90s that were 20 by 30 poster prints that are like amazingly sharp. I will say the equivalency of like maybe a 36 meg full frame camera doing a nice 20 by 30 poster print. Very nice and sharp. But they don't make it anymore, so I'm always happy to come across these rolls and shoot them up, just because it kind of takes me back to when I did shoot them and I could find them. All right, I'm gonna head that way. Be right back. Now, on these nice bright sunny days, you could consider 2 additional things to bring with you. One, a polarizing filter. Polarizing filter does a couple things. One, it makes your sky go a little bit bluer, makes your colors pop a little bit more. All the kind of glare I'm getting off of some of these leaves would be subdued. Also gets rid of glare and reflections off of car windows, water, sand, snow, that type of stuff. The other thing might be a lens hood, which I don't have either one of these. A lens hood would basically come off of your lens and basically act like a baseball cap for your lens and prevents sun flare. So I might get some sun flare in a couple of these shots because I know the sun was in it. But if you had a lens hood, that does help prevent that, and also adds a layer of like bump protection. If you drop it, I'd rather you crack your lens hood and have to replace a $15 to $30 lens hood than the lens. And this lens in the used market, you're probably talking 150, 200 bucks. And the body I'm not so worried about because I can find these bodies for 50 to 75 bucks. But so in this case, this lens is a little bit more pricey. And that's got to be careful when you take your gear around. All right, I'm on shot 13 of 24, so I got about halfway through my roll of film. I'm going to go that way. Be right back. All right, so every lens has a sweet spot, and for non-zoom lenses, you're already there for your focal length. So this is a 50 millimeter lens, so it's already kind of at a sweet spot. If you had a zoom lens, let's say a 2470 f4, the sweet spot for, at least for the zoom range, is the middle, like 75%. So not the bottom 10%, not the top 10%, but that like middle 75, 80%. That's kind of where your zoom lenses are tweaked for, where prime lenses are kind of more, they're tweaked for that one focal length that they're at. So this is a nice 50 millimeter lens. I am already kind of at my sweet spot for focal length because that's what it is. Where your 2470, if you kind of shot it completely wide or completely long, you might not be quite as crisp as maybe if you either bumped it a little bit, like instead of at 24, you shot it at 28, or instead of shooting it at 70, you back it off to about 60, you kind of start hitting that sweet spot of the optics that are in the lens. Now, there's another sweet spot for all lenses, and it has to do with the aperture. And I'm going to say 99% of all lenses. There is an exception. There's always exceptions, but there is an exception to that. The sweet spot for the aperture on any lens is about 2 stops from wide open, and then for the next 2 stops. So this is an f1.4 lens. 2 stops from 1.4, so 1.4 to 2, 2 to 2.8, so somewhere around 2.8, maybe 3.5. And then for the next 2 stops, so f4, 5, 6, maybe even to a 6.3 breaching f8 is your sweet spot, at least for this particular lens. So if I'm, shooting it wide open at 1.4, definitely I'm getting some nice softer background, but I might sacrifice a touch of softness to do it. Where if instead I shot it at 2.8 or 3.5, I still have a respectively shallow depth of field, but now I've got that little extra crispiness on my subject matter. If you had that 24 to 70 f4 that kind of been mentioned, instead of f4, go 2 stops, f4, f5, 6, f8. So you're going to be starting somewhere on f8 to f16. It's kind of like a big bell curve. You want that top of the bell curve. So not the widest open, not the most stop down. You want that kind of middle zone. So 2 stops from wide open, and then for the next 2 stops, you're kind of hitting that top of the sharpness bell curve when it comes to your aperture, and kind of that middle 80% of a zone for any zoom lens. Now, prime lenses, I don't have to worry about that optical thing because it's already tweaked there, but I may want to pay attention to the f-stop. Now, the exception to the f-stop rule are what's called nocturnal lenses. Now, nocturnal lenses, and Nikon's got a couple, I think Leica's got a couple, maybe Zeiss, there's a couple other companies, typically in a 50 millimeter range, and typically in the 1.4, 1.2, there might be a 1.0 noct lens. Those are actually optimized at wide open. But in order to do so, they really are very specialized ways of fine-tuning it, and they are basically very expensive. This is my 1.4 kind of a normal ultrasonic lens, where open market maybe 150, 200 bucks depending upon generation. But a noct lens, you're probably talking 1,500. So if you are really doing that extreme low light and you want your utmost sharpness because you need to shoot at maximum, shallow depth of field for whatever reason, could be concert, could be theater, nighttime street photography, and you don't want to use that 2.8 to 3.5 zone, then you might want to be looking at a noct lens, but yes, you will be paying for the noct lens. All right, I'm on shot 21 of 24. I'm going to get a couple more shots. I've got a stage right behind me for, performances or talks and stuff like that. A couple parks have them. This one does. Some bench seats right behind you, the camera there. I'm going to get a couple more shots. Be right back. All right, looks like I'm going to get my bonus shot. I'm going to get 25 here. And it kicks into rewind for me. That's the nice thing about this camera. A couple other Canon cameras will pre-wind the film out like some of the Rebels and then shoot backwards. This one kind of does it like the normal ones. They'll shoot forward and then kick into rewind at the end. Okay, today's camera was a Canon EOS RT with a Canon 50mm 1.4 ultrasonic lens. And today's film was some Ektar 25, some of my most favorite film. The gentleman that gave it to me for my project said it was frozen, so I shot it at rated and let's see what happens. Anyway, if I get results, hopefully I get some cool ones. Feel free to give them a thumbs up. Feel free to let me know your experience with Kodak, maybe some expired Ektar film, maybe the 400 or even 1000 speed stuff. And then feel free to subscribe as new episodes try to come out every Friday and every Saturday. Bonus episodes, short episodes, technical episodes come out every now and then. Maybe, I kind of scatter them in there. Feel free to watch those, give them a thumbs up too. All right, thanks for watching. We'll see you next episode. Okay, so the Ektar 25 film that I used for this episode was not as good as I'd hoped. I was informed that it was frozen, but it may not have been kept in good conditions before the gentleman froze it. Looks like there was some degradation in the emulsion, and it went through chemistry, or as it went through chemistry, some of the emulsion just kind of came off. So I got this weird pattern going on throughout the images, and the fact that the negatives were like 2 stops underexposed, so very, very thin, discolored, very, I'll call them bad images. So I threw them into Photoshop, pulled out what I could, and well, these are the results. Usually I try to show you exactly what I got just to show you what expired film does and stuff like that. They were so far gone that I had to try to pull them back, at least to show you something, rather than a full oops episode. It is an oops episode, but again, I tried to recover what I could. All right, thanks for watching. We'll see you next episode.